November 12,
Careful, it's
2018.
hot.
Cascade
Thank
Falls,
you. It
Washington.
smells wonderful.
Population
Eat up.
4,200. Garrett
The
Ashford
time
found
has
her at
come.
6:37
Right
in the
behind
morning,
you.
which
Let's
was
move.
exactly 3 years
Forward
to the
together.
day since his wife Sarah had stopped breathing in their bedroom upstairs. The Orc girl was pressed against the stone wall of his workshop like she was trying to disappear
Ready
into
to
the
start
mortar.
on that new
Her
project?
skin had that
Yes,
grayish
I've been
tint
looking
that comes
forward
from
to
the
it.
body
All
eating
right,
itself.
let's begin.
Not the kind of hunger you read about in stories. The kind that turns muscle into memory and bone into broken promises. Garrett was 47 years old. He'd been a carpenter for 30 years. He knew what wood looked like right before it snapped. She had that same quality. Most people in Cascade Falls walked past her. Orcs in human towns were like cracks in the sidewalk. You learned not to see them because seeing them meant acknowledging them, and acknowledging them meant you might have to do something. Garrett stopped. He wasn't sure why. Maybe because it was the anniversary. Maybe because grief had this way of making you do stupid things when the calendar reminded you that someone you loved was gone. Maybe because the girl looked up at him with eyes that had given up on hoping but hadn't quite figured out how to give up on living. "You hungry?" Garrett asked. She stared at him, probably calculating if this was a trap. In her world, kindness from humans usually came with teeth attached. "I'm not asking for your life story," Garrett said. "I'm asking if you want food." Her voice came out rough, like she hadn't used it in days. "Why, Tom? Does it matter? It always matters when humans are kind." She said the word kind the way you'd say poisoned, like it was just violence that hadn't shown its face yet. Garrett thought about that. She wasn't wrong. Kindness in Cascade Falls usually came with conditions. Do this believe that be less of whatever you are and more of what we need you to be. "Fair point," he said. "But my wife died 3 years ago today. I'm making stew anyway. You can eat it or not, your choice." She followed him home, keeping distance, probably calculating how fast she could run if he pulled a weapon. Garrett's house sat at the end of Maple Street, where the pavement gave way to gravel and the Douglas firs grew thick enough to make you forget you were still in town. The workshop took up the first floor, 2 rooms and a kitchen upstairs that Sarah had always complained was too cramped. Now it just felt empty in a way that had nothing to do with size. He pointed to a chair. "Sit." She didn't sit. Orcs didn't sit with their backs to doors. Prey sat, orcs positioned. Garrett shrugged and started cooking. The stew was simple. Potatoes, carrots, some beef that was probably older than it should be. Sarah would have added herbs. Would have made it taste like something that mattered. Garrett just made it taste like food. The orc girl watched him, not with hunger, with the kind of attention people paid to things that might kill them. When he finally put the bowl in front of her, she didn't grab it. She looked at it like it might explode. "It's not poisoned," Garrett said. "How would I know?" Garrett took the bowl, ate a spoonful, gave it back. She ate, not fast, not desperate, with the kind of control that came from years of not having enough. From knowing that if you ate too fast, you'd throw it all up and waste the only meal you might get. When she finished, Garrett put another bowl in front of her. She stared at it. "Why, boss?" "Because you're still hungry. I have nothing to pay you with." "Did I ask you to pay me?" She ate the second bowl slower, like she was trying to make it last, like she was storing the memory of being full because she didn't know when it would happen again. Garrett waited until she was done. "You have a name?" "Kira." "I'm Garrett." He paused. "You have a place to sleep?" "No." "You have anywhere to go?" "No." Garrett looked at the empty chair across from him. Sarah's chair. Nobody had sat in it for 3 years. "I have a spare room," he said. "Roof doesn't leak. Bed's decent. And my workshop is a disaster. If you want to work cleaning, organizing, whatever needs doing, I'll give you food and a place to stay." Kira stared at him. "That's it. That's it. You don't want—" She trailed off. But Garrett understood what she wasn't saying, what humans usually wanted from orc girls who had nowhere to go and no way to say no. "I want someone to clean my workshop," Garrett said. "Nothing else. You work, you eat, you sleep. You don't work, you leave. Simple." Nothing in her life had ever been simple, but she nodded. The next morning, Garrett woke to the smell of food cooking, which was wrong. Nobody cooked in his house except him. Not for 3 years. Not since Sarah's hands had gotten too weak to hold a spoon, and her body had decided it was done fighting whatever was eating her from the inside. He went to the kitchen. Kira was standing over the stove stirring something in a pot. She looked up when he entered. "I didn't know what humans eat for breakfast," she said. "So I made what orcs eat. Grain porridge with dried berries. If you don't like it, I can—" "It's fine," Garrett said. She'd also swept the floor. organized the dishes, wiped down the table that Garrett had been meaning to clean for 6 weeks. The house looked like someone lived in it, not like a place where a man was slowly forgetting how to be a person. They ate in silence. The porridge was good, better than good. It had spices Garrett didn't recognize, flavors that didn't belong in Cascade Falls, but somehow belonged in his kitchen. After breakfast, Garrett showed her the workshop. It was the kind of disaster that happened when a man lost his wife and forgot how to care about things like organization, or not leaving wood shavings everywhere, or putting tools back where they belonged. Kira looked at it like a general surveying a battlefield. "How long since anyone cleaned this?" she asked. "3 years, give or take." She nodded, like that explained everything. Like she understood what it meant when a man stopped taking care of the place where he used to build things with his hands. Garrett went to a corner and pulled out an old broom. The handle was carved with small roses, Sarah's work. She'd spent hours on it, turning a simple cleaning tool into something beautiful because that's what Sarah did. She found beauty in places where nobody thought to look for it. He held it out to Kira. "This was my wife's." Kira took it carefully, like it was made of glass. Her fingers traced the carved roses. "These are delicate," she said. She had delicate hands. Garrett's throat tightened. He cleared it. "Anyway, that's yours now, if you want it." Kira looked at the broom, then at Garrett, then back at the broom. "You're giving this to me? You need a broom? I have a broom." Seemed straightforward. But it wasn't straightforward, not to her. In our culture, you didn't give someone something that mattered to you. You didn't hand over pieces of the people you'd lost. You didn't trust strangers with your grief. "I'll take care of it," Kira said quietly. Garrett nodded. She started cleaning. Garrett went back to his workbench and pretended to work on a chair that someone had commissioned 2 months ago. But mostly he watched her, not in a creepy way, in the way you watch something you didn't know you needed to see. She moved through the workshop like water, efficient, thorough, finding spaces that Garrett had forgotten existed. She didn't just clean, she organized, sorted, created order from chaos in a way that made Garrett realize how much chaos he'd been living in. Around midday, Garrett's neighbor Silas stopped by. Silas Merrick was 52 years old and had been suspicious of everything for at least 51 of those years. He took one look at Kira and his hand went to the wooden cross hanging around his neck, touched it, like that would protect him from the dangerous orc girl who was currently organizing screws by size. "Garrett," Silas said slowly, "that's an orc. Her name's Kira. That's an orc, in your workshop, working. She's cleaning. I hired her." Silas's face did something complicated, like he was trying to feel multiple emotions at once, and they were all fighting for space. "You hired an orc." "Seems that way." "Garrett," Silas stepped closer, lowered his voice. "They're dangerous. You know that, right? They're not like us. They're cleaning my workshop, doing a better job than I've done in 3 years. If that's dangerous, I'll take it." Silas looked at Kira. She'd stopped working, was standing very still, like prey that knows it's been spotted. Her hand on the broom handle was tight enough that her knuckles were lighter green than the rest of her. "It's your funeral," Silas muttered. He left, made sure to slam the door. Garrett expected Kira to say something, to defend herself or be angry or scared. She just went back to cleaning. But her shoulders were tighter, her movements more careful. Like she'd remembered that this was a human town and she was an orc, and nothing she did would ever make her safe. That evening after she'd finished for the day, Garrett made dinner. More stew. He wasn't good at variety. Kira ate quietly. Then she spoke. "That man, your neighbor, he's afraid of me." "He's afraid of everything. Don't take it personally." "He touched his holy symbol when he saw me." Silas touches his holy symbol when he sees pigeons. He thinks they're spying for the devil. That got a small sound from Kira. Not quite a laugh, but close. "In my clan," she said slowly, "we believed humans were without honor, that you fought with poison instead of strength, with lies instead of truth, that you couldn't be trusted. Your clan wasn't entirely wrong." Kira looked at him. "But you gave me food, a room, work. You didn't have to." "Maybe I'm the exception. Or maybe my clan was wrong about more than I thought." They ate the rest of the meal in silence, but it was a different kind of silence, the kind that didn't need filling. The days turned into a week. Kira cleaned the workshop until it looked like it had when Sarah was alive. When Garrett used to care about things like swept, wet floors and organized tools, she fixed things Garrett hadn't even realized were broken. She worked with the kind of dedication that came from understanding that this might be temporary, that kindness might vanish, that you didn't waste opportunities when they came. and Garrett watched his house come back to life. Slowly, like a plant that had been forgotten in a corner and suddenly remembered how to grow. But Cascade Falls was watching too. The market vendors, the neighbors, the people who passed Garrett's workshop and saw an orc inside and couldn't understand why she wasn't in chains or a cage or whatever place they decided orcs belonged. Rosalind Hayes, who ran the vegetable stand at the Saturday market, started leaving extra carrots when Garrett came by. Never said anything, just put them in his bag with a look that said she understood something about loneliness and second chances. But others weren't so kind. Graffiti appeared on Garrett's wall one night, 3 words in crude paint, "Orc lover traitor." Garrett scrubbed it off before Kira could see it, but she saw it anyway. Orcs had good eyes for the kind of hate that was painted on walls. "You don't have to keep me," she said that evening. "I know. People are angry. They think that I know what they think. I don't care. You should care. Humans don't hire orcs. It's not natural." Garrett put down the piece of wood he was sanding. "You know what's not natural? Living in a house for 3 years that feels like a tomb. Going to bed every night in a room that still smells like someone who isn't there anymore. Walking past the chair where she used to sit and pretending it doesn't hurt to see it empty." He paused. "You being here, that's the first thing that's felt natural in 3 years. Kira stared at him. "You barely know me. I know you work hard. You don't steal. You make breakfast without being asked, and you take care of that broom like it's precious. That's enough." "In orc culture," Kira said slowly, "there's a concept, Cragthar. It means life debt. When someone saves you, truly saves you not just from death, but from being nothing. You owe them everything. Your strength, your loyalty, your life if necessary. I don't want your life. That's why I want to give it." Garrett didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing, just went back to sanding. But something had shifted. Some invisible line had been crossed. They weren't employer and employee anymore. They weren't human and orc. They were something else, something that didn't have a word in either of their languages. 3 weeks in, everything changed. It was a Saturday, market day. Garrett was at his workbench working on a cabinet that refused to be square no matter how many times he measured it. Kira was sweeping. And then the door opened. The orc who walked in wasn't like Kira. He was tall. The kind of tall that had to duck through doorways. His skin was darker green. Battle scars covered his arms. And his throat had a scar that ran from ear to ear, the kind of wound that should have killed him but didn't, because orcs were too stubborn to die from things that merely cut their throats. "Kira," he said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding, like something had broken in his vocal cords and healed wrong. Kira dropped the broom. Her face went pale. Well, as pale as green skin could go. Dorn. The orc Dorn looked around the workshop. At the clean floors, the organized tools. At Garrett. His eyes were the color of old amber. They didn't blink. "You've done well for yourself," Dorn said to Kira. "Living with humans, cleaning their floors. I almost didn't recognize you. Where's your pride?" "I left it in the clan when the clan left me to starve." "You broke the law. You questioned the chieftain. You spoke against the raid. You chose weakness over strength. Exile was mercy." 27 humans died in that raid, Kira said, including children. That wasn't strength. That was murder. Dorn's face didn't change, but his hand moved to the axe on his belt. "Careful, Kira. Even here, treason is treason." Garrett stood up. He wasn't tall, wasn't particularly strong, but he'd lived 47 years and he'd learned that sometimes you just had to stand. "You need to leave," he said. Dorn looked at him, really looked, like Garrett was a chair he was considering breaking. "This doesn't concern you, human. She works for me. That makes it concern me." Dorn smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the kind of smile people wore when they were deciding how much violence they felt like committing. "You think you can protect her? You think your human laws mean anything to orc justice? I think you came to my workshop, on my property, and threatened someone under my roof. I think that means you need to leave, now." For a moment, nothing happened. Dorn didn't move. Garrett didn't move. Kira stood between them, holding the broom like she'd forgotten how to let go. Then Dorn laughed. It sounded like something breaking. "You've gotten soft, Kira, living with humans, pretending to be one of them. But you're not. You never will be. Green skin doesn't wash clean. And when the clan comes for you, and we will come, your human friend here won't be able to stop us." He left, didn't slam the door, just walked out like he'd done nothing more threatening than deliver a package. Garrett looked at Kira. She was shaking. not visibly, but in the way bones shake when everything else is trying very hard to hold still. How long? Garrett asked. How long? What? How long before they come? Kira finally put down the broom, sat on the floor because her legs had stopped holding her up. I don't know. A week? A month? Dorn doesn't work alone. He was second in command. He enforces clan law. If he's here, it means they sent him to bring me back. And if you don't go, Kira looked at him, then they kill everyone who helped me. That's the law. You protect a traitor, you become a traitor. Garrett should have been afraid. Should have told her to leave. Should have done the smart thing that would keep him alive and safe and not involved in Auric clan politics. But all he could think about was 3 weeks ago, about Kira curled against his workshop wall, trying to make herself small, about how she'd eaten that first bowl of stew like it was a miracle, about the broom she held so carefully, and the breakfast she made without being asked. Then I guess I'm a traitor, Garrett said. Garrett, no, listen. He sat down on the floor next to her. I've lived 47 years. I've been a carpenter, a husband, a widower. I've made chairs and tables and cabinets that'll outlive me. And you know what? None of that mattered, not really, not until 3 weeks ago, when I found a starving orc girl trying to disappear into a wall. He paused. You gave me Kragthar, that life debt thing. But you got it backwards. I'm the one who owes you. I don't understand. You made my house feel like a home again. You gave me a reason to get up in the morning that wasn't just going through motions. You made breakfast. You fixed things. You cared. And I haven't had someone care about my space, my work, my life in 3 years. So yeah, if your clan wants to come, let them come. They'll have to go through me first. Kira looked at him like he'd started speaking a language she didn't know. You'd die for me. I'd fight for you. There's a difference. That night, Garrett couldn't sleep. He lay in bed and listened to the house creak. Cascade Falls at night had its own language. The sound of wind in the Douglas firs, dogs barking at nothing, the occasional car on Route 2, and underneath it all, the quiet breathing of someone in the next room who was probably not sleeping either. Around midnight, Garrett got up, went to the kitchen. Kira was already there, sitting at the table, holding Sarah's broom. Couldn't sleep, Garrett asked. Orcs don't sleep well when they're hunted. Garrett sat down. Tell me about your clan. So she did. Told him about growing up in the Iron Peak Mountains, about learning to fight before she learned to read, about the chieftain who valued strength above everything, strength in battle, strength in silence, strength in following orders without question, about the raid on Pine Haven Village that she'd spoken against, about how questioning the chieftain was the same as questioning the clan, about exile, about watching her clan leave her in human territory with nothing but the clothes on her back and the certainty that she'd die within a week. Why did you speak against the raid? Garrett asked. Because I'd seen the village, weeks before. I'd been scouting, and I saw children playing, old people sitting in the sun, families. It wasn't a military target, it was just people, and the chieftain didn't care. He said humans were all soldiers, that their children grew up to be soldiers, that killing them early was mercy. But you didn't believe that. I didn't know what to believe. I'd been taught my whole life that humans were the enemy, that you were cruel and weak and dishonorable. But then I saw those children playing, and they looked happy, like orc children. And I couldn't reconcile that. Garrett understood. He'd seen it too. The way people turned other people into enemies by refusing to see them as people at all. The way orc became a word that meant monster instead of person. The way human meant the same thing to Kira's clan. What happened to the village? Garrett asked. Kira's hands tightened on the broom. What always happens. 27 dead, houses burned, survivors scattered, and the chieftain called it a victory. They sat in silence. The kind of silence that held all the words they weren't saying, all the grief and guilt and rage that didn't have anywhere else to go. I'll talk to the sheriff tomorrow, Garrett said finally. They won't help. I'm an orc. They might help me. I'm a citizen. I pay taxes, and I'm being threatened. Kira looked at him. You'd really do that? Go to the human authorities for me. I'd do a lot of things for you. Get some sleep. We'll figure it out in the morning. But before either of them could move, Garrett heard something. A sound outside. Glass breaking. Then footsteps. Heavy. Multiple sets. Garrett was on his feet. Stay here. He grabbed the baseball bat Sarah had kept by the bed. Ran downstairs. The workshop window was shattered. 2 young orcs, barely more than teenagers, stood inside. One had Kira backed against the wall, the broom raised like a weapon. Get away from her, Garrett said. The orcs turned. One of them laughed. He couldn't have been more than 22. Scars on his arms that looked fresh, eyes that had seen violence but hadn't learned wisdom yet. The human protector, the young orc said. Dorn told us about you, said you thought you were brave. I don't think anything. I'm standing in my workshop at 3 in the morning with a bat, and you're breaking and entering. That's a crime here. Leave now, I won't call the sheriff. The second orc, smaller but meaner looking, pulled a knife. We're not here for you, old man. Just a traitor. Her name is Kira. Her name is dead. That's what happens to... The young orc didn't finish his sentence because that's when the shotgun blast took out the workshop's back window. Everyone froze. Silas Merrick stood in his bathrobe in Garrett's backyard, smoking shotgun and his hands pointed at the sky. Next one goes lower, Silas said. His voice was steady. The voice of a man who'd been in the Marines for 20 years and knew exactly what a shotgun could do to flesh. You boys got 3 seconds to get out of my neighbor's workshop. The young orcs looked at each other, looked at Silas, looked at the shotgun. They ran, crashed through the broken window, disappeared into the Douglas firs behind Garrett's property. Gone in seconds like they'd never been there at all. Silas lowered the shotgun, walked into the workshop through the back door, looked at Garrett, at Kira, at the broken glass scattered across the clean floor. You all right? Silas asked. Garrett nodded, couldn't speak yet. Adrenaline was still flooding his system, making his hands shake. Kira lowered the broom. You came. Silas looked at her for a long moment. Yeah, well, Garrett's been my neighbor for 15 years, and I've lived next to him long enough to know that if he thinks something's worth protecting, it probably is. He turned to Garrett. But this is going to get worse before it gets better. You understand that? I understand. Those were scouts, testing your defenses. Next time they'll come in force. I know. Silas nodded slowly. All right then, I'm going to get my rifle, and I'm going to sit on your porch for the rest of the night, because apparently we're doing this now. You don't have to. Shut up, Garrett. Sarah was kind to my wife when Linda had cancer. Brought us food for 6 months straight. Never asked for anything. Never made it weird. Just showed up with casseroles and kindness. Silas's voice cracked slightly. I owe Sarah, and since she's not here anymore, I guess I owe you. So I'm sitting on your porch, and if any more orcs show up, I'm shooting first and asking questions. Never. That work for you? Garrett felt something warm in his chest, gratitude maybe, or just the simple knowledge that he wasn't alone. Yeah, that works. Morning came cold and bright. The kind of November morning where frost turned the world silver and your breath came out in clouds. Silas was still on the porch, rifle across his lap, drinking coffee from a thermos. He looked tired but alert, the way soldiers looked when they'd learned to sleep with one eye open. Garrett brought him fresh coffee. Thanks for staying. Don't mention it, literally. Linda doesn't know I'm here. She thinks I'm in the garage working on the truck. She'd be mad. She'd be terrified. And she'd be right. Silas took the coffee. This can't last, Garrett. You can't guard your house forever. Those orcs will keep coming until they get what they want. I know. So what's the plan? Garrett didn't have a plan. He had a stubborn refusal to give up and a dead wife's words telling him to be kind. That wasn't much of a strategy against an entire orc clan. I'm working on it, he said. Silas snorted. Work faster. At 10 in the morning, Rosalind Hayes showed up with a basket of vegetables and information. She found Garrett in the workshop trying to fix the window. Kira was upstairs sleeping after the long night. I heard about last night, Rosalind said. No preamble, no small talk, just straight to business. Word travels fast. In a town this size, gunshots at 3 a.m. travel at the speed of light. She set the basket down. I brought carrots and intel. The carrots are free. The intel is going to cost you. Cost me what? The truth. Why are you really doing this, protecting her? Garrett put down his hammer, looked at this woman who'd been kind to him in small ways for years, who'd understood something about loss when Sarah died, who'd left extra vegetables in his bag every week like it was nothing. Because 3 years ago, my wife died in our bedroom upstairs. And for 3 years, I've been waiting to die too, not actively, just passively. Going through motions, building furniture I didn't care about for people I didn't know. And then I found Kira, and for the first time in 3 years, I cared if I woke up tomorrow. He paused. That's worth protecting. Don't you think? Rosalind's eyes softened. Yeah, I think it is. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it to Garrett. There's an orc elder, lives up in the Iron Peak Mountains, name's Valdra. She's the matriarch of the main clan. Word is she's been trying to reform orc culture for years, make them less violent, more integrated. How do you know this? Because I sell vegetables to everyone, Garrett, including orcs. And orcs talk when they think humans aren't listening. She pointed to the paper. Those are directions to Valdra's hold. It's a 3-hour drive, then another 2 hours hiking. Dangerous, especially for humans. Why are you telling me this? Rosalind looked at him for a long moment. I lost my husband 30 years ago. He was killed in a car accident. Drunk driver. And for 5 years after that, I was like you. Just waiting, going through motions. And then one day, this old woman at the market didn't speak much English, gave me a basket of oranges for free. Just smiled and gave them to me. She smiled at the memory. And I went home and I cried. Because someone had been kind to me when I'd forgotten what kindness felt like. And that's when I started living again. She touched Garrett's arm. You're doing what that woman did for me. You're being kind when the world says you shouldn't. So I'm returning the favor. Go see Valdra. Maybe she can help. And if she can't, then at least you tried. That's more than most people do. Garrett told Kira about Valdra that afternoon. They were in the kitchen. Kira was making lunch. Some kind of orc stew with vegetables and spices that made the whole house smell like home used to smell. Like Sarah was still there, still cooking, still making the ordinary beautiful. Valdra, Kira said slowly, the matriarch. You know her. Everyone knows her. She's legendary. They say she's been alive for 70 years, that she fought in the wars before the treaties, that she's killed more humans than any orc alive. Kira stirred the pot. They also say she's gone soft, that she wants peace, that she's forgotten what it means to be orc. Is that true? I don't know. I never met her. Low-ranking warriors like me didn't get an audience with the matriarch. Kira looked at Garrett. Why are you asking? Because Rosalind thinks Valdra might help us, might be able to stop your clan from coming after you. And you believe that? I believe we're running out of options. And I believe that sitting here waiting for them to come back is just slow suicide. Garrett sat down at the table. I'm going to Iron Peak tomorrow to talk to Valdra. You don't have to come. Of course I'm coming. Kira. No. She put down the spoon, turned to face him. You've been protecting me for 3 weeks, fighting for me, risking your life. The least I can do is come with you to face my own people. It might be dangerous. Everything is dangerous now. At least this way we're moving towards something instead of just waiting to die. Garrett couldn't argue with that logic. All right, we leave at dawn, but we're not going alone. Who else? Silas. He's got military experience, and he knows the mountains. He hates orcs. He hated orcs, past tense. I think last night changed his mind. Besides, he owes Sarah. And paying a debt to a dead person means helping the people they loved. They left at 5:30 in the morning, while Cascade Falls was still dark and sleeping. Garrett's truck, old Ford Ranger that had seen better days but still ran. Silas in the passenger seat, rifle between his knees. Kira in the back, wrapped in a blanket that had been Sarah's, watching the town disappear behind them. The drive north took them along Route 2, then onto logging roads that got progressively worse the higher they climbed. Douglas firs gave way to mountain hemlock. Pavement gave way to gravel, then dirt, then barely roads at all. They didn't talk much. What was there to say? They were driving into orc territory, into the mountains where human law didn't reach, where Garrett and Silas were the outsiders, the intruders. 3 hours in the road ended. They parked the truck in a clearing and started hiking. The trail wasn't marked. Kira led. She knew these mountains, had grown up in them before her exile, knew the switchbacks and the hidden paths and the places where humans weren't supposed to go. Garrett followed, breathing hard. 47 years old, and his knees were reminding him of every single one of those years. Silas was doing better. Marine training died hard, but even he was struggling with the altitude. 2 hours of hiking, then 3. The sun climbed higher, but the temperature dropped. Up here, November meant snow, meant ice on the trail and wind that cut through your jacket like you weren't wearing one at all. How much farther? Garrett asked. Kira pointed. There. Ahead through the trees, Garrett could see it. The hold, not a building exactly. More like a fortress carved into the mountain itself. Stone walls that looked ancient. Watchtowers. Gates made of logs thick as a man's torso. And orcs, lots of them, patrolling the walls, standing guard at the gates, moving through the compound like ants in a colony. This is as far as I go, Kira said. She turned to Garrett. From here, you need to announce yourself. Walk up to the gate. Tell them you seek audience with Matriarch Valdra. Don't show fear. Orcs respect courage, even in enemies. What if they don't let us in? Then we go home and wait to die. Kira tried to smile, failed. But I don't think they will. Valdra is curious about humans, about change. She'll want to meet you. Garrett looked at Silas. You ready for this? No, but I'm here anyway. Silas checked his rifle. Let's go be brave or stupid. I can never tell the difference. They walked out of the trees into the clearing in front of the hold. Immediately, every orc in sight turned to look at them. Conversations stopped. Weapons were drawn. The air went electric with tension. Garrett kept walking, hands visible. No weapons drawn. Just a middle-aged carpenter and a former Marine walking toward an orc fortress like they had every right to be there. 20 feet from the gate, a voice called out. Deep, female, authority in every syllable. Stop. They stopped. An orc stepped out from the gatehouse. Female, old, maybe 60, maybe 70, hard to tell with orcs. Her skin was dark green with age, lined with scars that told a lifetime of stories. Silver hair braided with what looked like bones, eyes sharp enough to cut. Humans, she said, in the hold, uninvited, unannounced. This is either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I'm betting on stupid, Silas muttered. Garrett ignored him. We seek audience with Matriarch Valdra. Do you now? The old orc stepped closer, studied them with eyes that missed nothing. And what would humans want with our matriarch? To talk, about peace, about... The old orc held up a hand. Stop, I don't want your speech. She looked past them to where Kira stood at the edge of the clearing. You, come here. Kira hesitated, then walked forward, slowly, like approaching a wild animal. The old orc's eyes widened, just slightly, enough to be noticeable. Kira, she said softly, child of Mora, daughter of the exiled line. You know me. I know your blood. The old orc reached out, touched Kira's face. Gentle, the way you'd touch something precious that you thought you'd never see again. You have your mother's eyes. You knew my mother. I am Valdra. Your mother was my daughter, which makes you my granddaughter. The world tilted. Garrett heard Kira make a sound. Not quite a gape, not quite a sob. Something in between. That's not possible, Kira said. My grandmother died years ago, in the Purge, when Chieftain Grimtusk took power. Is that what they told you? Valdra's smile faded. No, child, I did not die. I survived, I endured, and I have been waiting for this moment for 10 very long years. She turned to the guard. Open the gates, these are my guests. Anyone who harms them answers to me. The gates opened, massive, heavy, the sound of wood and iron moving like the earth itself was shifting. Valdra gestured. Come, we have much to discuss, and little time. The inside of the hold was not what Garrett expected. He'd imagined something primitive, savage, the way humans always imagined orc spaces. But this was organized, structured. There were markets, workshops, orcs building things, trading things, living their lives like any human town. Children played in the streets. Old orcs sat in the sun. Families gathered around cooking fires. It looked like community. Valdra led them to the central keep, a building made of stone and timber built into the mountain itself. Inside it was warm. Fires burned in massive hearths. Tapestries hung on the walls depicting orc history, battles, hunts, ceremonies. She took them to a private chamber, dismissed the guards, closed the door. For a long moment, she just looked at Kira, memorizing her face, like she was afraid she might disappear. You look so much like her, Valdra said finally. Your mother, Mora, she had your strength, your stubbornness. Oh, she smiled sadly. Your inability to stay quiet when everyone else said you should. Why didn't I know you existed, Kira asked. Because I let you believe I was dead. Because it was safer that way. Valdra sat down heavily. Suddenly she looked every one of her 68 years. When your mother was killed in the Purge, when Chieftain Grimtusk took power, he hunted anyone loyal to the old ways. He killed your mother, your father, most of your family line. But not you. I was matriarch. Killing me would have started a civil war. So Grimtusk made a deal. I could live. I could keep my title, but I had to stay silent. Had to let him run the clan his way. Had to pretend I approved. Valdra's hands clenched into fists. I have spent 10 years pretending, waiting, building support in secret. And when I heard that my granddaughter, a child I thought dead, had been exiled for questioning Grimtusk, I knew the time had come. Time for what? Garrett asked. Valdra looked at him, really looked, like she was seeing him for the first time. You're the human, the one who took her in. Yes, the one who gave her food, shelter, work. Yes, the one who is willing to die to protect her from her own people. Garrett didn't hesitate. Yes, Valdra nodded slowly. Good, because that's exactly the kind of human I need. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the hold, at her people. For 10 years I have been planning a revolution. A quiet one. Not with weapons, with words, with ideas, with the slow work of changing minds. She turned back. Grimtusk rules through fear, through strength, through the old ways that say might makes right and compassion is weakness. And you disagree, Kira said. I know better. I have lived long enough to see where those ways lead. To endless war, endless death, to exile for children who ask questions and murder for those who show mercy. Valdra's voice grew harder. But to challenge Grimtusk directly would be suicide. He has the warriors, the loyalists, the ones who believe that strength is the only virtue. So what's your plan? Silas asked. A trial, public, traditional, according to the old laws that even Grimtusk cannot ignore. Valdra looked at Kira. You were exiled for treason, for questioning the chieftain, for refusing orders. Under traditional law, you have the right to a trial before the full clan. A trial I would lose. Not if you win. Win how? Valdra's expression hardened. Trial by combat. You fight Grimtusk's champion. If you win, your exile is revoked. If you lose, you die. That's not much of a plan, Garrett said. It's the only plan we have. And it's more than just about Kira. Valdra began to pace. I have been building support. 40% of the clan wants change. Wants peace with humans. Wants a future that isn't just endless raiding and dying. But they won't move without proof, Kira said. Without seeing that change is possible. Exactly. You winning a trial, you the exiled traitor defeating Grimtusk's champion in fair combat, would prove that the old ways can be challenged. That mercy is not weakness. That asking questions is not treason. Valdra stopped pacing, looked directly at Kira. I need you to fight, not just for yourself, for our entire people, for the future of orcs and humans together. The room went silent. Garrett could hear his own heartbeat, could hear Silas breathing next to him, could hear the wind outside the keep howling through the mountains like the voice of something ancient and angry. Who's the champion? Kira asked quietly. Dorn Ironjaw, the enforcer, the one who came to the human town to threaten you. I can't beat Dorn. He's trained for 20 years. He's twice my size. He's predictable, Valdra interrupted. And you're smart, and you have something he doesn't. What a reason to win that isn't about pride or power. Valdra put her hands on Kira's shoulders. You fight for your human, for the life you've built, for the kindness you've been shown. That's stronger than any warrior's training. Kira looked at Garrett. What do you think Garrett thought about Sarah? About the words she'd written in her final days? About being kind when it's hard? About the fact that sometimes the only way forward was through the fire, not around it? I think we didn't come all this way to give up now. I think if there's even a chance this works, we have to take it. Even if I lose all, you won't lose. How can you be so sure? Because I've seen you work. I've seen how much care you put into sweeping a floor. And if you can care that much about cleaning wood shavings, you can care enough about living to not die. Kira laughed. It was a small sound, but real. All right, when's the trial? 7 days, Valdra said. The next full moon, traditional, public, the entire clan will witness. 7 days to prepare to fight the most dangerous orc in the clan. Perfect. Kira looked at Garrett. You're staying, right? Where else would I go? Good, because I'm going to need you, both of you. She looked at Silas. You too, if you're willing. Silas adjusted his rifle. I came all the way up this mountain. Be ashamed to leave before the interesting part. Valdra clapped her hands. Then it's decided. 7 days. We train, we prepare, and we change the world. She walked to the door, paused, looked back at Garrett. Human, what you've done for my granddaughter. There are no words in the Orcish language for that kind of kindness. In our culture, we call it Kragthar, life debt. But even that doesn't capture it. I didn't do it for gratitude. That's why it matters. Valdra opened the door. Come, I'll show you to your quarters. Tomorrow we begin training. Tonight we rest. And we hope that 7 days is enough. The days blurred together. Training in the morning. Kira and Garrett in the ring, learning a different kind of combat. Not orc fighting, not human fighting. Something in between. Something that came from desperation and determination and the stubborn refusal to give up. Silas helped too. Taught Kira about timing, about waiting for the moment when your opponent commits to an attack and can't pull back. About the second of vulnerability that exists in every aggressive move. Marines don't win fights by being stronger, Silas said. We win by being smarter, by seeing the opening and taking it before the other guy knows it exists. In the afternoons, Valdra taught politics, taught Kira how to speak in front of the clan, how to make an argument that would resonate, how to turn her exile from a source of shame into proof of conscience. You didn't betray the clan betrayed you, betrayed itself, betrayed the values that made us strong in the first place. Make them see that. At night, Garrett and Kira sat on the balcony and talked about Sarah, about Kira's mother, about the people they'd lost and the people they'd found, about the fact that family wasn't always blood. Sometimes it was the person who made you breakfast without being asked. Sometimes it was the person who gave you something precious and trusted you to take care of it. On the fifth night, Kira asked the question Garrett had been waiting for. What if I lose? Garrett didn't lie, didn't offer false comfort, just told her the truth. Then we lose together, and we die knowing we tried, that we stood up when everyone else said we should stay down. And maybe that's enough. Is it? Ask me in 3 days. That same night, in a different part of the hold, Valdra met with someone in secret. The chamber was dark, private, only 2 people inside, Valdra and Dorn Ironjaw. You understand what I'm asking, Valdra said quietly. Dorn's face was stone. You're asking me to betray Grimtusk, to throw a fight, to let an exiled traitor defeat me in front of the entire clan. I'm asking you to do what's right, not what's easy. And what makes you think I'll agree? Valdra pulled something from her coat. A small wooden carving. A bird. Intricate. Beautiful. The kind of thing a child might make for a parent. She handed it to Dorn. He took it. His hands shook. Where did you get this? Your daughter made him it 15 years ago, before Grimtusk killed her for questioning his orders. Before you became the enforcer who carries out those same orders. Valdra's voice was soft, sad. I saved it, kept it, waited for the day when you might be ready to remember who you were before fear made you into what you are. Dorn stared at the carving. Tears ran down his scarred face. Her name was Thessa, he whispered. She was 16. She asked why we were raiding peaceful villages, why we were killing children. And Grimtusk said she was weak, that she had to be made an example. He closed his fist around the carving. I didn't stop him. I stood there and watched while he killed my daughter. Because I was afraid. Because I thought following orders was honor. And now, Valdra asked, now I see Kira, and she looks like Thessa, has the same courage, the same stubborn refusal to stay silent when something is wrong. Dorn looked up. If I let Kira win, then what happens to me? Grimtusk will know you through the fight. He'll brand you traitor, exile you, possibly kill you. So I trade my life for hers. You trade your fear for redemption. You show the clan that there's a different path, that following your conscience is braver than following orders. Valdra put her hand on his shoulder. Your daughter would be proud. Dorn was quiet for a long time, then he nodded. I'll do it, not the whole fight. I'll make it look real. But at the end, I'll give her the opening she needs, and I'll yield. Thank you, Valdra said. Don't thank me. I'm doing what I should have done 15 years ago. I'm choosing the right thing over the easy thing. He stood. And when it's over, when I'm exiled or dead, you make sure Kira knows. Make sure she knows about Thessa. Make sure she understands that she's fighting for more than just herself. I will. Dorn left, quietly, carrying the wooden bird like it was the most precious thing in the world. Valdra sat alone in the darkness. 7 days. 7 days to change everything. She hoped it would be enough. The 7th day came too fast and too slow. The trial was set for noon, full moon above though the sun still ruled the sky. The entire clan gathered, 400 orcs in the central square of the hold surrounding the ring where Kira would fight for her life. Garrett stood with Silas at the edge of the crowd. They were the only humans. Every eye that wasn't on Kira was on them. Measuring, judging, wondering why humans cared about the fate of an exiled orc. Valdra stood on a raised platform. Matriarch, elder, the voice of tradition in a world that was trying to forget what tradition meant. We are gathered, she called out, to witness justice, to honor the old laws, to see truth revealed through trial. The crowd murmured. some in agreement, some in anger. The clan was divided, Garrett could see it. Half wanted this trial, half wanted it over. Wanted Kira dead so they could return to the way things were. Grimtusk stepped forward. The chieftain, 60 years old and built like violence incarnate, scars covering his arms, his face, his chest. Every inch of him a testament to battles won and enemies destroyed. But Garrett noticed something. The way Grimtusk looked at Valdra. There was hatred there, and something else. Fear. Kira, daughter of Mora, exiled daughter of the disgraced line, Grimtusk said. His voice carried across the square. You stand accused of treason, of questioning your chieftain, of refusing orders, of choosing human compassion over orc strength. He paused, let the words sink in. How do you plead? Kira stepped into the ring. She wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons, just a young orc woman standing alone in front of her people. I plead for the right to be heard. Grimtusk smiled. Speak then, before you die, let the clan hear your treason from your own mouth. Kira looked at Valdra, at Garrett, at the 400 orcs who would decide her fate, and she spoke. I am accused of treason because I refused to kill children, because I saw a human village Pine Haven, and I saw families. I saw old people in the sun. I saw children playing. And when Chieftain Grimtusk ordered us to raid, to burn, to kill everyone, I asked why. The crowd stirred, whispered. Grimtusk's face darkened. I was told that humans are the enemy, that they're weak, that they have no honor, that killing them, even their children, is mercy because it prevents future warriors. She paused, let the words hang. And I didn't believe it, because I'd seen those children. And they looked like us, like orc children, happy, innocent, not enemies, just people. They're humans, someone shouted from the crowd. Not people, Kira turned toward the voice. 3 weeks ago, I was dying in a human town, starving, exiled, left to die because I questioned orders. And a human found me, gave me food, gave me shelter, gave me work, asked nothing in return except that I clean his workshop. She looked at Garrett. His name is Garrett Ashford. He's a carpenter. His wife died 3 years ago. He lives alone in a house that felt like a tomb until I showed up. And he saved my life. Not because I'm orc, not because I'm strong, but because I was hungry and he had food. The crowd went quiet. That human showed me more honor in one meal than this clan has shown me in my entire life. So when you say humans have no honor, when you say they're weak, when you say they're not people, I tell you you're wrong, because I've lived with one. And he taught me that kindness is not weakness, that asking questions is not treason, that refusing to kill children is not betrayal. Kira's voice grew stronger. I was exiled for speaking truth, for having a conscience, for believing that strength means protecting those who can't protect themselves, not slaughtering them in their sleep. And if that's treason, then I am guilty, but I am not ashamed. She turned to face Grimtusk directly. You call yourself chieftain. You say you represent orc values, but the only value you know is violence. And I say in front of the entire clan that you're wrong, that you've led us down a path of endless war and endless death. Kira's voice rang out clear. I say that you killed my mother Valdra's daughter, not because she was weak, but because she was brave enough to question you, just like I'm doing now. And I say that your time is ending, that this clan deserves better, that we all deserve better. Grimtusk's hand went to his axe, but Valdra stepped forward. She has spoken her truth. Under traditional law, she has the right to trial by combat, to prove her words with strength. Fine, Grimtusk said. His voice was ice. Dorn, come forward. The crowd parted, and Dorn Ironjaw walked into the ring. He was massive, 6'8", maybe 300 pounds. Scars everywhere, an axe that looked like it could split a tree with one swing. He moved like violence incarnate, like a force of nature that couldn't be reasoned with or stopped. He looked at Kira, and for just a moment, so brief that Garrett almost missed it, something crossed his face. Regret, sorrow, resolution. Then it was gone, replaced by the mask of a warrior doing his duty. I challenge you, Dorn said formally. Fight, win or die, those are your choices. Kira picked up the practice sword Valdra had given her. It felt light in her hands, too light, like it wouldn't be enough. I accept, she said. Valdra raised her hand. Traditional rules, first blood, first surrender, or first death. The trial begins when I drop my hand. Garrett's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Silas stood next to him, tense, ready to jump into the ring if things went wrong. Valdra's hand dropped. Dorn charged. The fight lasted 4 minutes. It felt like 4 hours. Dorn came in fast, axe swinging in wide arcs designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Kira dodged, ducked, rolled away. Every move defensive, every second survival. The crowd roared, some for Dorn, some for Kira. The noise was deafening. Dorn's axe came down. Kira blocked with her sword. The impact sent her to her knees. Dorn kicked, caught her in the ribs. She rolled, gasping. "Stay down," Dorn said quietly. Only Kira could hear. "Please, just stay down." She got up. They circled. Kira breathing hard. Dorn barely winded. He swung again. She blocked. Again. Again. Each impact jarring her bones, each second showing the gap between them. She couldn't win, not with strength, not with skill, not with anything except Garrett's voice in her head. From training, from the days they'd spent learning this impossible thing. You don't have to be stronger. You just have to care more about living than he cares about winning. Kira changed tactics, stopped blocking, started moving, not away, toward, into Dorn's range, where his axe was too long to be effective, where size became a disadvantage. She struck, fast, low, caught Dorn's knee. He stumbled. She struck again. His ribs, his arm, nothing lethal, nothing devastating, but constant, relentless. The way water wears down stone. Dorn swung wild, trying to create space, but Kira stayed close, inside his guard, making him fight at a range he wasn't used to. And then she saw it. The opening Silas had taught her to watch for. The moment when Dorn committed to an overhead strike and couldn't pull back. She stepped in, drove her shoulder into his chest, used his own momentum against him, sent him off balance. Dorn fell, hit the ground hard. His axe skittered away. Kira put her sword to his throat. The crowd went silent. Valdra stood. Yield or die. Choose. Dorn looked up at Kira, and his eyes were wet. "I yield," he said. Then even quieter, only for her, "You look like her. My daughter, Thessa. She was your age when Grimtusk killed her. For questioning him. Like you did." Kira's hand shook. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I'm a coward. Because I enforced laws I knew were wrong. Because I told myself that following orders was honor, when it was really just fear." Dorn's voice cracked. "When I saw you in Pine Haven, when you refused to kill that child, I saw her. What she would have done. What she would have wanted me to do." He closed his eyes. "This is for Thessa. For the daughter I failed. For the man I should have been." Kira pulled the sword back, offered her hand. Dorn took it, let her help him up. The crowd erupted, half cheering, half booing. Chaos and noise, and the sound of a world changing whether it wanted to or not. Valdra raised her arms. "The trial is concluded. Kira has proven her strength. Her exile is revoked. She is clan once more." Grimtusk stepped forward. "This is not over, old woman." "Then challenge me," Valdra said. "Now, before the clan, for leadership." The square went dead silent. Grimtusk looked at Valdra. At this 68-year-old matriarch who'd survived wars and purges and 10 years of pretending to be weak. He looked at the crowd, at the faces divided, at the orcs who'd been waiting for this moment, and he saw the truth. That fighting Valdra now in front of everyone was a fight he might not win, and losing would mean more than death. It would mean admitting that the old ways were ending. "Not today," Grimtusk said, "but this isn't over. The clan is divided. Those who follow strength will follow me, and we will see who survives when winter comes, and you need warriors, not philosophers." He turned, walked away. 30% of the clan followed him. Loyal to the end, loyal to strength and violence in the only world they knew. But 70% stayed for Valdra, for Kira, for the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there was a better way. Valdra watched them go, then turned to the remaining orcs. "We have work to do, not with weapons, with words, with building, with showing that strength means more than the ability to kill." She gestured to Kira. "This young woman showed more courage today than Grimtusk has shown in 10 years. She fought for what was right even when it meant exile, even when it meant death. That is the strength we need." The crowd murmured. Agreement, uncertainty, hope. Valdra raised her voice. "Grimtusk will return, with his followers, with violence. We must be ready. Not to fight them, that would make us the same, but to defend ourselves, to show that peace does not mean weakness." She looked at Garrett and Silas. "We will need human allies, human teachers, humans who can show us how to build instead of destroy, how to trade instead of raid, How to live together instead of die apart. She smiled. The revolution has begun, and it starts with one orc girl who refused to kill children, and one human man who gave her food when she was starving. That night there was a celebration, not a huge one, not triumphant, but quiet. Orcs who'd wanted change gathering in the central hall, sharing food, sharing stories, sharing the tentative hope that they might actually survive what was coming. Garrett sat with Kira on a bench outside the hall, watching the stars, breathing the mountain air that was cold and clean and tasted like freedom. "You did it," he said. "We did it." "No, you did it. I just watched." Kira laughed. "You did more than watch. You believed. When no one else did. When I didn't even believe in myself." She leaned against him, tired, bruised, but alive. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we go home. Back to Cascade Falls. Back to the workshop. And we figure out what normal looks like." "You think we'll ever be normal?" "No, but we'll be us, and that's better." Valdra found them an hour later. She looked tired, like the weight of 70 years and a revolution had finally caught up with her. "My granddaughter," she said, "and the human who saved her. I owe you both more than I can ever repay." "You don't owe us anything," Garrett said. "I owe you everything." Valdra sat down heavily. "What you did taking her in, protecting her, coming here, you didn't just save one life. You saved all of us, gave us a chance at a future we thought was impossible." "What will you do now?" Kira asked. "Rebuild. Reform. Try to undo 10 years of Grimtusk's damage." Valdra smiled. "And I want you to help, not here, but there in the human world. Be a bridge. Show that orcs and humans can live together. Work together. Build together. How dumb? However you want, but I have an idea." Valdra reached into her coat, pulled out a small pouch, handed it to Garrett. "There's enough money in there to expand your workshop, to hire apprentices, to start a program teaching carpentry to young orcs who want a different path." Garrett opened the pouch. It was full of coins, gold, silver, more money than he'd seen in his life. "I can't." "You can and you will, because this is bigger than you, bigger than Kira. This is about showing both our peeps that the future doesn't have to look like the past." Valdra stood, kissed Kira's forehead. "Be safe, child, and come visit. I've lost you once. I won't lose you again." She left, walked back into the hall, back to the work of changing a culture one conversation at a time. Garrett looked at the pouch, at the money that represented possibility. That represented a future he hadn't imagined 3 weeks ago when he'd found a starving orc girl pressed against his workshop wall. "You want to do this?" he asked Kira. "Start a program, teach orcs carpentry." Kira smiled. "I want to make breakfast and clean workshops and use that broom with the carved roses. And if teaching carpentry comes with it, then yes, let's do it." "All right then, let's go home." But going home wasn't simple. 3 days after the trial, as Garrett, Kira, and Silas were preparing to leave, a messenger arrived at Valdra's keep. "Grimtusk has taken hostages," the messenger said. Breathless, scared. 5 young orcs who sided with Valdra. "He's demanding you surrender, matriarch, or he kills them. 1 each day until you step down." Valdra's face went hard. "We're the old fortress, 12 miles north. He has 40 warriors with him." "Then we go get them," Kira said. "No," Valdra shook her head. "That's what he wants. He wants me to attack. Wants to start the civil war in a place where he has the advantage." "So we let him kill them?" Kira asked. Garrett thought fast. "No, we negotiate." Everyone looked at him. "Grimtusk wants Valdra to step down. He wants the clan back under his control, but he doesn't want martyrs. Martyrs create legends, create sympathy." Garrett turned to Valdra. "Offer him a deal, a real one. The clan splits, officially. Those who want to follow him can. Those who want to follow you can. No more fighting, no more raids, just separation." "He'll never accept," Valdra said. "He will if you sweeten it. Give him territory, resources. Make it look like he won something." Garrett paused. "And make it very clear that if he harms those hostages, all deals are off and you'll hunt him to the ends of the earth." Valdra considered. "It might work." "It has to work," Silas said, "because the alternative is war, and war means both sides lose." Valdra sent the message. 3 hours later, Grimtusk responded. He accepted. The clan would split. Grimtusk would take his followers to the northern territories. Valdra would keep the hold. No raids on each other, no interference. The hostages would be released unharmed. It wasn't perfect, but it was peace. He'll break it eventually, Valdra said, when he feels strong enough, when he thinks I'm weak. Maybe, Garrett said, but that's a problem for another day. Today we stopped a war, and we saved 5 lives. That's enough. 6 months later. Garrett's workshop looked different. The building was the same, the tools were the same, but everything else had changed. There were 5 workbenches now instead of 1. 5 apprentices instead of none. 3 orcs and 2 humans all learning the craft of taking raw wood and turning it into something useful, something beautiful. Kira taught the morning classes, showed them how to measure, how to cut, how to sand until the grain showed through. Garrett taught the afternoons, the harder stuff, joinery, finishing, the small tricks that made the difference between furniture that lasted a year and furniture that lasted a lifetime. Silas helped with security, not because they needed it as much anymore, but because he liked feeling useful, liked being part of something that mattered. Linda, his wife, helped too, organizing supplies, managing schedules, making sure everyone ate lunch. Rosalind brought vegetables every Saturday, enough for the whole workshop crew, and she stayed for lunch, became part of this strange family that had formed around the simple act of one person being kind to another. Cascade Falls had changed too, slowly. Not everyone accepted the orcs. Not everyone was happy about the integration program. But enough people were. Enough that the workshop became a landmark, a place where people pointed and said, that's where it started, where human and orc first worked together. The graffiti didn't appear anymore. The threats had stopped. And while there were still people who crossed the street when they saw an orc, there were more who nodded, who said hello, who slowly, tentatively, started to believe that maybe their children could grow up in a world where species didn't determine worth. On a Saturday in May, 6 months and 2 weeks after the trial, Garrett was working on a cabinet when he heard the workshop door open. He looked up. A young woman stood there, human, maybe 25. She looked nervous, excited, like she was meeting someone famous and didn't quite know how to act. Can I help you? Garrett asked. Are you Garrett Ashford? I am. The one who helped the orc girl Kira. That's me. The young woman smiled, held out her hand. I'm Emma Whitmore. 6 months ago, I was hiding in a basement in Pine Haven while my village burned, and an orc found me, a warrior named Kira. She was supposed to kill me. Those were her orders. But she didn't. She hid me instead, helped me escape, saved my life. Garrett felt something warm spread through his chest, like sunlight after a long winter. I've been trying to find her, Emma continued, to thank her, and I heard she was here, working with you. She's in the back, teaching a class, but I can get her if... No. Emma was already walking toward the back room. I want to see her, want to tell her myself. Garrett followed, watched as this young woman walked into the classroom where Kira was showing 3 orc teenagers how to use a hand plane. Kira looked up, saw Emma, and froze. You, Kira whispered. Me, Emma said. And then she was across the room, arms around Kira, crying. You saved me. You saved me, and I never got to thank you. Kira hugged her back, stiff at first, then tighter, like she was holding on to proof that her choice had mattered, that refusing to kill a child had rippled outward in ways she couldn't have imagined. You're alive, Kira said, because of you. I didn't do anything. I couldn't. You looked like a person. Yeah. They stood there, orc and human, warrior and survivor, both of them crying, both of them holding on to each other like they were the only real things in a world that kept trying to convince them they were enemies. Garrett watched from the doorway, felt Silas come up beside him. That's something, Silas said quietly. Yeah, that's something. 3 years later, Garrett Ashford died in his sleep. He was 50 years old. Heart attack. Quick. Painless. The way he would have wanted it if he'd been given a choice. Kira found him in the morning, still in bed, peaceful, like he'd just decided not to wake up. She sat with him for an hour, holding his hand, crying quietly, saying all the things she'd never said because she thought there was more time. The funeral was held in Cascade Falls, in the small chapel where Garrett and Sarah had been married 30 years earlier. The pews were packed. Humans and orcs together, all the apprentices who'd learned carpentry. All the families who'd been touched by the integration program. All the people who'd seen what one act of kindness could build. Silas gave the eulogy. He was 72 now, retired, but still strong, still carrying the memory of the rifle that had saved Garrett's workshop that night 3 years ago. Linda sat in the front row holding his hand. Garrett Ashford was not a hero, Silas said. He was just a man, a carpenter, a widower, someone who'd lost everything and didn't know how to keep living. He paused. But he was also someone who chose kindness when the world told him to choose fear, Who chose to help when help was dangerous? Who chose to see a person instead of a monster? And that choice, that single choice to give food to a starving stranger, changed everything. Silas looked at the crowd, at the faces, human and orc, old and young, all of them here because Garrett had decided that breakfast mattered. We lost Garrett today, but we didn't lose what he built. We didn't lose the workshops, the programs, the bridges between our peoples. We didn't lose the proof that kindness is stronger than hate, that compassion is braver than violence, that one person can change the world if they're willing to stand up when everyone else sits down. He stepped back, sat down next to Linda, who squeezed his hand. Kira stood, walked to the front, held a small wooden box. Garrett gave me this before he died, she said. Her voice was steady, stronger than it had been 3 years ago. He said to open it at his funeral, to share it with everyone who came. She opened the box. Inside was a broom handle, carved with roses, Sarah's work, the broom Garrett had given Kira on her first day in his workshop. This broom was made by Sarah Ashford, Garrett's wife. She carved these roses by hand, turned something ordinary into something beautiful. Because that's what she did. She found beauty in simple things. Kira ran her fingers over the carved roses. Garrett gave this to me when I had nothing, when I was dying, when the world had decided I didn't matter. And he said this was my wife's. Now it's yours. And I didn't understand then what that meant. But I do now. She looked at the crowd. It meant trust. It meant family. It meant that he saw me not as an orc or a stranger or a monster, but as a person, as someone worth saving, worth teaching, worth caring about. She closed the box. Garrett taught me that the world changes through small acts, through breakfast made without being asked, through tools given to people who need purpose, through standing in doorways when it would be easier to step aside. She smiled through tears. He taught me that kindness is not weakness, that caring is courage, that making someone else's life better is the only thing that really matters. Kira set the box on Garrett's casket. Thank you, Garrett, for the food, for the workshop, for the family, for showing me that the world is bigger and kinder than I thought. I'll keep building what you started, I promise. Emma Whitmore stood next. She'd grown in 3 years, confident, strong, working as a teacher now in Cascade Falls Elementary, teaching human and orc children together. I never met Garrett, Emma said, but I'm alive because of what he did. He saved Kira, and Kira saved me. That's how kindness works. It ripples outward, touches people you'll never meet, changes lives you'll never know about. She paused. If Garrett could see this room right now, humans and orcs sitting together, mourning together, building together, I think he'd say it was worth it. Worth the risk, worth the fight, worth giving a stranger a bowl of stew on a Tuesday morning. Rosalind Hayes spoke next, older now, slower, but still the heart of the Saturday market. Garrett bought vegetables from me for 15 years. Never said much, never made a fuss. Just a quiet man who built furniture and minded his business. She smiled. Until he didn't. Until he saw someone who needed help and decided that being quiet wasn't enough. That minding his business wasn't enough. That sometimes you have to stop being quiet and start being kind. She looked at Kira. Sarah would be proud of both of you, of what you built, of how you turned grief into purpose and pain into progress. After the funeral, after the crowd had dispersed, after the sun had set, Kira returned to the workshop. It was quiet, empty. The apprentices had gone home. The tools were put away. Everything was clean and organized, the way Garrett had taught her. She sat at his workbench, touched the wood, smelled the sawdust, felt the presence of a man who wasn't there anymore, but whose influence was everywhere. On the bench was an envelope, her name on it, in Garrett's handwriting. She opened it. Inside was a letter and a small carved bird, the same bird Dorn had shown Valdra, the one his daughter Thessa had made. The letter read, Kira, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry. Not for dying, everyone dies, but for not being here to see what you become. You've already become so much. In 3 years, you've gone from a starving exile to a teacher, to a bridge between two peoples who thought they were enemies. To prove that courage means asking questions and kindness means giving answers. I'm proud of you. Sarah would be proud of you. The bird was Dorn's. He gave it to me before he left. Yes, he lived. Grimtusk exiled him, but Valdra gave him sanctuary in the Southern Territories. He's teaching young orcs how to build instead of fight. He wanted you to have this, to remember that redemption is always possible. Keep building, keep teaching, Keep showing the world that breakfast matters. You saved me 3 years ago. You gave me purpose when I thought purpose was dead. You gave me family when I thought family was buried. Thank you, and remember, be kind, especially when it's hard. That's when it matters most. Your friend Garrett. Kira set down the letter, picked up the carved bird. Oh, it was beautiful, delicate, made with love. She put it on the workbench next to the broom with carved roses, two symbols, two people who'd learned that strength meant more than violence. That honor meant more than obedience. That family meant more than blood. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at Cascade Falls. The town was dark, quiet, peaceful. But tomorrow it would wake up, and orcs and humans would work together, would build together, would prove that the world Garrett and Sarah had imagined, the world where kindness one was possible. She touched the window. I'll keep building, she whispered. I promise. 20 years later. The Ashford Integration Center occupied 3 city blocks in downtown Cascade Falls. Workshops, classrooms, dormitories for apprentices from across the country, a museum dedicated to the history of orc-human relations and the people who'd fought to make peace possible. Kira ran it all. She was 40 now, matriarch of the orc community in Washington, leader of the integration movement that had spread across the country, mother to 3 adopted children, 2 orc, 1 human, who'd grown up knowing that species didn't determine worth. She stood in the original workshop, the one Garrett had owned, the one where it all started. It was preserved now, a historical site. The workbenches were the same. The tools were the same. Even the broom with carved roses sat in its corner, protected by glass but still visible. Every morning Kira came here, touched the glass, remembered. Today she'd brought someone. A young orc girl, maybe 11, skinny, scared, found living on the streets after her clan had exiled her for asking too many questions. The girl's name was Mora, named after Kira's mother, named for the hope that history didn't have to repeat. This is where it started, Kira said. 20 years ago, a man found me when I was dying, gave me food, gave me work, gave me a reason to keep living. What happened to him? Mora asked. He died, but what he built didn't. Kira knelt down to the girl's level. And now I'm going to do for you what he did for me. Give you a home, teach you a trade, show you that you matter, that your questions matter, that the world needs people who ask why instead of just following orders. Mora looked around the workshop, at the clean floors, at the organized tools, at the broom with carved roses. What do I have to do? Learn, work, be kind to the next person who needs it. Kira stood, and make breakfast. Garrett always said that breakfast matters, that small acts change the world. That's it. That's it. Mora nodded slowly. Okay, I can do that. Kira smiled, put her hand on the girl's shoulder. Come on, let's get you settled. You're going to start classes tomorrow. Carpentry first, then reading, then history, then whatever else you want to learn. They walked toward the door, toward the future, toward the life that Garrett had made possible by choosing kindness when the world said he should choose fear. At the threshold, Kira paused, looked back at the workshop, at the space where her life had changed. Thank you, she whispered, to Garrett, to Sarah, to the memory of kindness that had saved her and built a world where saving people wasn't heroic. It was just what you did. Then she turned, took Mora's hand, and walked into the morning light. Outside Cascade Falls was waking up. Humans and orcs on their way to work. Children playing in the parks. Markets opening. Life happening in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Rosalind Hayes, now 88 years old, was setting up her vegetable stand. She saw Kira and Mora walking past, waved, put extra carrots in a bag for them. Some traditions endured. Silas Merrick sat on his porch, 72 years old, but still watching the street like a Marine watching for threats. Linda brought him coffee. They'd celebrated 50 years of marriage last month. Garrett and Sarah had been at their wedding. The circle remained unbroken. In the Northern Territories in Grimtusk's hold, something was changing too. The old chieftain had died 5 years ago. His successor, a young orc who'd been taught by Dorn, had reached out to Valdra. Tentative, careful, but real. Perhaps the letter said it's time to heal. Perhaps the split has lasted long enough. Perhaps we can find a way back together. Not under one chieftain, but as partners, as equals. Valdra had brought the letter to Kira. They'd read it together, cried together, hoped together. The reunion wouldn't happen overnight, but it would happen, slowly, carefully, built on the foundation of trust that people like Garrett and Dorn and Kira had created. And in the distance, carved in stone, at the entrance to the Ashford Center, were words from Sarah's final message to Garrett, the words that had guided him. The words that guided them all now. Be kind, especially when it's hard. That's when kindness matters most. 20 years, 2,000 apprentices, 100 integrated communities. Countless lives changed, and all because one man gave food to a stranger, and all because breakfast mattered, and all because sometimes the world changes not with wars or laws or grand gestures, but with small acts of compassion that ripple outward until they become waves that reshape everything. That was Garrett's legacy. That was Sarah's legacy. And now it was Kira's turn to pass it forward. One person at a time, one act of kindness at a time, one breakfast at a time, until the world they dreamed of, where species didn't matter, where kindness was strength, where asking questions was honored instead of punished, became real. It started with a broom. It started with stew. It started with one person seeing another as human as person as worth saving. And it never ended. It just kept growing.